Alright, so a few days ago I made a video talking about the Elpis disease infection in Requiem, and kind of talked about how good it is to see a return of, proper zombies while still being kind of new. So to summarise, Elpis is the infection in Requiem, basically turns people into zombies, but they keep a bit of their day-to-day, they seem to still want to do their daily routine. They can talk, they can use weapons, they can do things, and they're also aware kind of what they're doing as well. So it's pretty creepy, but obviously overall it is a zombie infection, right? Now, during that video I spoke about how we may have already seen a glimpse of this through Resident Evil Village, and this is a theory that's been going around online since the showcase kind of went up. And it's always interesting to see theories online, and sometimes when I find one that's pretty interesting, I like to make a video on it. So here's this one. So we'll show the clip of Village, and you'll be warned, obviously, this is spoilers for the end of Village, the very, very end of Village, so you've been warned. This is a spoiler territory video, so if you haven't played Village yet, just back away.
Captain, you need to see this. BSAA didn't send soldiers. This is a bioweapon.
What the hell were they thinking?
Orders, Captain.
Pick up the rest of the squad. Plot a course for BSAA Europe HQ. Someone's gotta pay.
Okay, so in the Village you find out the BSAA have been using bioweapons to send in as soldiers to deal with certain events that happen. In this case, obviously, Miranda in the Village at the end of Resident Evil Village. Now what's interesting is if you look at the BSAA soldier and you look at some of the infected in what brief snippets you've seen of Requiem, they do share some kind of similarities, which is interesting. I think the main one people kind of look at is the eyes and how they kind of look like they've been weeping out the eyes a little bit in the Requiem footage, and that is kind of here as well with this soldier. And that has led people to think, at least, that Village teased Elpis and the BSAA are using it in some fashion. Now, again, a little bit of a lore moment, but I'm sure people know the BSAA is like a bioterrorism counter team. They get sent in when bioterrorist things happen in the franchise and deal with it. And obviously the end of Village is quite kind of a dramatic thing, because you find out this team that has been founded by people like Chris has gone against what they were doing and using them to deal with other bioweapons, which is not a good thing. Clearly Chris is pissed, and that's how Village kind of ends. So anyway, back to Elpis and Requiem. So the idea is that the BSA are kind of buying, maybe, Elpis from some kind of third party. Obviously, we've got Victor Gideon teased as the villain for Requiem. There's ideas going around that he's actually not the main villain of the game, and that's someone else, because all the footage you see of him seems to be from the hotel, which we know isn't in Raccoon City, and we know that Raccoon City is also going to be a big part of Requiem as well. So maybe there's someone else kind of running the show, so to speak. Now, again, it has legs, right? You've got these zombies that can kind of use things, slightly talk, and have at least some kind of thoughts, right? So them picking up like a stick or an axe or something and using it isn't out of the ordinary. They talk, like I said, they keep doing what they would have done in life. So you've got obviously the ones in the footage of Requiem are the maid and the cook. They're still cleaning, they're still cooking, and they talk, right? But here's the part where things go a little bit off the rails. Like, basic human things is one thing, walking around, talking, picking up light objects and kind of retaining that level of humanity is one thing, right? Actually going in as soldiers, because you see snippets of them in Chris' section of Village at the end where they're kind of rappelling out of helicopters and stuff like that. They're doing things that a fully compliant person would do, right? So that kind of makes you think, is it actually Elpis? And I think the big thing is, if the outbreak in Requiem is more of a wide scale thing, maybe it's like a simplified, basic outbreak of, you know, the base level virus, but then obviously the BSAA, in partnership with whoever it may be, whether it's the Connections, whether it's Victor Gideon, or someone else entirely we don't know yet, have like an evolved version of it where they can literally make people into these like super soldiers, basically. And that's the kind of leading theory behind it, and it's got legs. I'll say that it does kind of, it's a good one. I do see where it makes sense, but I do see where it can get a bit foggy because we haven't played 9 yet, so it's difficult to kind of gauge if it's the same thing or not. Now, obviously, realistically, we have to think about Capcom and how they kind of do these plot lines that don't necessarily kind of come back at any point. So, just off the top of my head, there's a few that are out there still that I do want to make a video on more kind of in depth about these storylines at some point. But we've got Jake from Resident Evil 6, hasn't come back yet, and that's a big deal. Obviously spoilers for Resident Evil 6, but if you don't know, he's a big character and has kind of vanished into thin air. We've got Blue Umbrella, which is kind of not a thing now. There's snippets of them in 8, but that's literally just the equipment that Chris uses, has that logo on it. Obviously you've got the DLC for 7, Not Hero, which is Chris's DLC, which kind of does lean into it a little bit, but other than that we don't know much about that. The Connections, which is more of a background story at the minute. It has evolved in some ways through 7 and 8, but nothing has kind of come to the forefront with that just yet. And of course, End the Village, the BSAA involvement with using kind of bioweapons to fight bioweapons, very interesting. And the weird who's walking towards the car, why does the car stop at the end of the road bit at the end of Village, like, they're big things that have kind of been left in the air. I'll give Village its kind of leeway. It was the last game they made, so maybe that stuff will kind of in some way be answered in Resident Evil 9, but chances are some stuff just isn't going to show up. They do that a lot. They are aware that they do that a lot. It just comes down to, you know, when the time's right and if the game they're making makes sense to kind of talk about that stuff. But to sum up, the theory is the BSAA have a kind of evolution of Elpis and are using it on their soldiers to make them like super soldiers, right? That's the theory. Does have some groundwork, does have some kind of foggy moments where it may not be the case, but either way, it's interesting to talk about, and I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. So let me know if you have any kind of ideas about the story developments of Resident Evil 9. Let me know if you think this BSAA Elpis thing is legit or not. Do let me know. Thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more Resident Evil content, and I'll catch you all in the next one.